will be the first public televised hearing. With that, we will open up the meeting. Board members, for your information, Kelly has updated us with a fresh package of the zoning bylaws. I'd request that you perform the standard procedure and do a read-over just to make sure that all of the changes that have been incorporated are in there. If you have any questions, feel free to contact myself, and I can certainly relay those questions or comments over to the applicable people, Jerry, or whoever we may be able to talk with. So, the next item on the agenda that we have tonight is in your packets, with a front page first. There is a notification here concerning, from Town Council, of course soliciting our input concerning the remote meetings. I don't know if any board members have comments that want to get related over to the Board of Selectmen, but they're looking for our input. Anthony, do you have any comments?
I know a little about this. I heard the meeting when they first introduced it, and I really don't see any problem with it as long as people don't make a habit of it.
Do you have any comment?
I would prefer that we don't have the remote, just personal preference.
Comment, Joe?
Yeah, it's the same way. I'm not in favor of it. I'm being opposed to having remote participation.
I tend to agree. If the Board of Selectmen so chose to go down that road, of course, I'll have no problem with it. I don't think the board members will, but since we're an appointed board and a judicial board, I think it behooves us that we try to make every effort to be here in person, and I think just from a remote standpoint, I don't think it would be a fair aspect for the applicants nor the board members to be able to have proper discussions that would be beneficial to both the board and to the applicant. So we'll send those comments off, and clearly if the board chooses to go down that road, we certainly will support that aspect. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions the board members have currently right now? If not, we're going to take the first hearing. And that first hearing is Russet Rentals. And Attorney Bertnazzi, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Clerk, Mr. Chairman.
I'm good. How are you?
First piece of equipment?
Before you get started, any board member have any conflicts? Hearing none? Okay.
Tearing down your brand new equipment.
I'll read the announcement, and then we'll take it under advisement. Please note that there's 4 members on this board tonight, and of course you need a full support of that. That being 7:05, it's on the continued application of Russell Rentals LLC of 13 Level Street, Milford, Mass. For a special permit pursuant to sections 3.1.3 and or 3.1.4 of the zoning bylaws in relation to a parcel of land owned by the petitioners located on the southerly side of Pine Street, known and numbered as 42 Pine Street. A special permit is sought in order to permit the utilization of the portion of the basement level of an existing 5-family residential structure for the business or professional use. On his application, we have comments. When the applicant was asked, explain the reasons that you assert the special permit sought in harmony with the general purpose intent of the zoning bylaw. The applicant states that it's the business and professional office. It is permitted use in the zoning district in which the property is situated. Concerning the question and asked, is the proposed use of the premises will not create undue traffic congestion or impair safety traffic. The additional proposed use will not substantially add to any traffic congestion or impair any pedestrian safety. Concerning the question that the applicant asked, that the proposed use of the premises will not cause harm to the neighborhood or create any nuisance or hazardous affecting the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. The applicant states the proposed mixed use of the property is similar to others in the general vicinity of the property and elsewhere in the zoning district, and it will not result in increases in nonconformity or intensity of use requirements established by the zoning bylaw. In your packet, planning board members, we have the existing plot plan that currently was the finished proposed apartment building that was constructed. And I believe I have a letter, planning board, in the file that I'd like to read into the record. This was a couple of extensions, so bear with me. This letter was dated November 20th, addressed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Dear board members, the planning board reviewed the petition listed above at the regular scheduled meeting on November 20th and recommends the following. Unfavorable recommendation, see town planning letter. Town planner letter indicates that the applicant requests a special permit to convert the unfinished 10,000 square foot basement in a new multifamily dwelling to business and/or professional office. A special permit was previously granted in 2011, see attached, which we have, to replace the original non-conforming multifamily dwelling with a 5-unit multifamily dwelling. The original ZBA permit from this board permitted the limited use to 5 two-bedroom units and units so as not to over-intensify the use of the property. The applicant now proposes to introduce an additional 2,640 square feet of business or office use on the site that is already at its maximum density. All of the existing off-street parking spaces on the property are required for the 5 residential units, and there is no additional area for the parking on site. In addition, the adjacent municipal lot is not handicap accessible to the basement level on this site. Since no building plans have been submitted, it is unclear how the basement of this property can be made compliant with accessibility and code requirements. Therefore, I recommend an unfavorable report be forwarded to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Further, if the ZBA grants a special permit, site plan approval will still be necessary from the planning board. With that, please,
Mr. Chairman, I think there were also some letters from neighbors,
let me see if there's some letters here.
Yeah, there's a handwritten one in
quite
there.
a few, I think there were 4 letters from
I can read those into the record if you care to.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, there they are.
yeah, there's the church thing.
Okay, this letter was dated February 4th. This is from Temple Beth Shalom. Dear zoning board members, the Milford Hill Hebrew Association and Temple Beth Shalom received a notice relative to the request of Russell Rentals for a special permit to utilize the basements of its newly renovated 5-unit apartment building for business and/or professional use. Russell Rentals and the Ruggiero family have done a fine job in rehabbing the building at 42 Pine Street. Utilization of the business for business or professional offices will not adversely affect this use of the neighborhood. Our only concern is that the businesses and their clientele not use the on-street parking to the detriment of the residential neighbors. The municipal parking lot is adjacent to the building, and there is ample parking to accommodate the contemplated business. The Ruggieros have an excellent reputation and track record for maintaining and managing their properties. We therefore support in the granting of the special permit. We have another letter dated December 3rd from the First Unitarian Church. This says, this basically is addressed to whom it may concern. I am writing to you to advocate for the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Milford to accept an application for Russet Rentals for their special permit pursuant to 42 Pine Street. We understand and support their efforts to utilize a portion of the basement level of the existing 5-family structure for business or professional use. Over the years, we have found them to be pleasant, helpful, and respectful neighbors. We have found that they consistently have the best interest of the neighborhood on mind as they update and improve the appearance and the atmosphere of Pine Street. If you have any questions or concerns regarding our support or request, please feel free to contact us at the church. Thank you for your consideration. We have another letter here from Pine Street Baptist Church, which is dated December 19th. This was addressed to Mr. Ruggiero, who's sharing it with the file with the zoning board. Pursuant with the notice from the town of Milford regarding your zoning request and your recent conversations with one of our trustees, Mr. Richard Amore, accept this communication as a position taken by the trustees of Pine Street Baptist Church. The addition of a small business office to your apartment complex across the street, such as you mentioned to Mr. Amore, the real estate law, etc., would be acceptable. Thus stated, Milford zoning rules would first be upheld. We applaud your recent actions of rebuilding the apartment complex across and adjacent to the church, such as an improve the surrounding area and maintain value. Thank you, and that was Jack Alexander, trustee. We have two other letters I'd like to read in as well. This was dated December 6th to the Milford Zoning Board. Dear Zoning Board members, this letter is to inform the board that I am not opposed to allowing two small offices to be located at 42 Pine Street. I am the owner of 48 Pine Street, which is next door to the property in question. Mr. Ruggiero has done a nice job of building a new apartment building which has enhanced the neighborhood. He is it looks like a diligent property owner, ensures that his property is well cared for. Sincerely, Paul Trotter, 48 Pine Street. And then I have a letter dated June 15th, 2011 from Braza Construction. And this is to whom it may concern on the property of 42 Pine Street. Please allow this letter to serve as notification to all concerned parties the findings regarding proper handicap access at the above referenced location. Braza Construction has taken grades and points from sidewalk at the driveway entrance to the side door for the basement access. It has been determined that the existing slope percentage is in compliance with the ADA handicap regulations. Please do not hesitate to contact us for further questions or concerns regarding this matter. Therefore, Mr. Bertozzi, I shall turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, as stated, this is an application for a special permit to extend, alter, structurally change a non-conforming structure or use. Again, by way of orientation, the property is located on the southerly side of Pine Street. If anyone's interested, I have copies of a portion of the assessor's map and a Google Earth overview of the area to show the location of the property. The premises is 42 Congress Street. It's surrounded on two sides by the municipal parking lot behind the old Opera House, across from the Pine Street Baptist Church. The subject parcel is a 71, approximately 71 by 151 foot rectangular shaped lot, and it is situated in the Central Commercial or CA zoning district. My client, Russet Rentals, its principal, Robert Ruggiero, acquired this property in June of 2011. At that time, the property was improved by a pre-existing non-conforming 5-family dwelling. That structure had been gutted at that point. Renovations were underway. The premises were in a horrible condition. I have some photographs that show you the condition as it existed at that point in time, and the walls were buckling, and again, renovations were underway but incomplete. And I think it was the preference of all local officials and folks in the neighborhood that rather than completing that renovation and continuing the 5-family use, that the property be raised and renovated. So in May of 2011, my client appeared before this board seeking a special permit that will allow him to raise that structure and replace it with a modern 5-family dwelling. The only difference in terms of the use that was proposed was that there would be 2 additional bedrooms that would have been allowed. So under the old structure, it was a 5-family. 3 of the units had 2 bedrooms, and 2 of the units had 1 bedroom. Under the new proposal, all 5 units were to be 2 bedroom units, and that was approved by this board. A copy of your decision was attached to the petition. There were some conditions about on off-site parking that were complied with, and the new structure was subsequently completed. I have some photographs here of the structure as it was ultimately completed. I would suggest to you that, as you can see, that the building was constructed in a manner that was consistent with the architectural and aesthetic appearance of the old building. Corners were not cut. In fact, extra monies were expended in order to make the dwelling that was ultimately constructed very similar to the old dwelling, consistent with other buildings generally within the vicinity. And I would suggest to the board that that structure and the structure across the street that my client also constructed after a fire destroyed the building on that site are credits to that neighborhood. Have done much benefit to the values of the properties around it and the neighborhood and the downtown area in general, a great deal of credit, and or credit to the neighborhood. They were constructed, as I said, at a significant investment by Mr. Ruggiero and Russet Rentals. I think even at the time that we were making this proposal back in May of 2011, there were members of this board that were remarking at the substantial financial investment that was going to be required to make the project happen. Since that was completed, the real estate taxes at the property have increased by 4 times in the year since construction was done. So my client, being a businessman, is trying to increase the income that can be generated by the building, and he is proposing, under this current petition, to amend that earlier decision and to permit for the construction of office space for business and professional use to be constructed in the basement. I have some general plans here. There was a plan that just showed the open footprint that was submitted with the petition. I have a couple of plans here that show a very general depiction of what is being proposed. There are 2 units there. There'd be, it's marked bath. Obviously, there aren't going to be showers and baths. It's going to be a restroom that could be used. There are some utility areas where obviously all of the utilities that serve the buildings are situated. Multiple entrances and exits from the building. There may be some additional internal walls that would be constructed to suit the needs of prospective tenants. At this point, that wouldn't be anything that would be permanent, that couldn't be altered subsequently. There was an error in the petition that was initially submitted, indicating that there was going to be 10,000 square foot. Actually, the building itself is 60 feet by 44 feet. So the entire area in the basement is 2,640 square feet. And obviously only a portion of that would be used for these 2 particular offices. As indicated in the petition, the proposed uses as professional and business offices are permitted as of right in the zoning district. Because it is located in this zoning district, the parking requirements that might ordinarily apply to those types of uses do not. The off-street parking requirements do not apply to this particular property. It's very, very consistent. This type of use that's not going to significantly increase traffic flow onto or off of the property. It's not a retail use or something like that. Generally speaking, there'd be a few employees there. Maybe a client or 2 coming in if it's a law office. If it's an accountant's office, probably less than that. There is ample off-street parking as would be available for any commercial use in that zoning district in the municipal lot that surrounds this particular parcel. The proposal doesn't doesn't call for any changes to the exterior of the building, so there wouldn't be any increases in any intensity of use type problems with the property. The major issues that were cited by the planning board when we were before them dealt with handicap accessibility. You saw the letter that indicated that driveway is consistent with the grade of handicap type ramps. There is a dedicated handicap spot on Pine Street in front of this building. This is a walkout type basement, so you walk out into the area where these offices would be, directly on grade with the driveway. So I would suggest to you, in terms of handicap accessibility, this is probably more accessible than 90% of the other business type uses within this commercial zoning district. So for the reasons that were cited in the petition and suggested here to you this evening, I would suggest that the property is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw, will not create undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety, and will not cause the neighborhood, will not cause harm to the neighborhood or create a nuisance or hazard affecting health, safety, and the general safety of the public. I would add one thing. These types of uses tend to be types of uses that are going to have most of their activities during normal business hours. Unlike the residential uses, which tend to be more active in the evening and on weekends. So I would suggest to you that these two uses would be fairly harmonious there in terms of, their peak hours of operation, so that, the business use is gonna be more active when the residential uses are sort of, are more quiet, and vice versa, when folks come home from work, these businesses are gonna tend to be closed. So, as such, my client would request that you act favorably on the petition and grant the relief that's sought thereby.
Anybody from the audience want to heard on this application? If not, I'll turn it over to my board members. Anthony?
Yeah. From looking at the pictures that you took, David, it seems like there's two doors actually that are at grade level that wouldn't make the handicap accessible.
3 or 4.
There might be three, but I saw the one on the side and one in the rear.
Yep.
And there must be another one here on this side, the rear. So that really cures the problem of accessibility. Obviously, it'd have to be approved when the plans are drawn by the building commissioner. The parking in that district's not required. Are the parking spaces there now, are they labeled or dedicated to specific tenants?
They're dedicated to the residential units, and they're sort of front and back, and each one is numbered for, I believe, for.
So the numbers are assigned to different units? All right, so there might be some problem if during the day somebody comes in and uses one of those, But,
I think you could take care of that with signage if.
yeah,
if it was
I'm sure you
concerned.
could, yeah. The only other question, the types of uses, and you said it's business and professional. We're not gonna put a restaurant down there.
No, nothing like that, nothing retail. The notion would be professional offices,
Sure.
maybe an accountant, maybe a lawyer's office, something like that.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
No, my only concern is the parking. I just think I think it's gonna require a substantial number of parking spaces, and I don't think 2 or 3. And I just think it's gonna impact the municipal parking lot. That's my concern. Is that you have, a half a dozen employees for, each of the 2 units that you'd be renting. They're each gonna have a car, and if they have people coming in, could you have 10, 12, 15 cars?
I would be surprised at that. These offices are pretty small. I would think that you're not gonna have more than 2 or 3 employees in either of the units. And again, this is in the commercial district. That's what those commercial lots are for, is to
I know, but
provide.
I'd hate to see them looking up, using up 15 of the commercial as it is, it's tight as it is, but that's just that's a concern.
I understand. There are very few commercial uses in that zoning district that provide off-street parking for their customers. This particular area of the municipal lot is one of the bigger areas and probably one of the least used areas. So I think there's generally parking available over there anytime that you drive by there. It's not, as you get further closer to Exchange Street, those spots tend to be taken up. But generally speaking, when you go over right behind the old Opera House, there's generally a lot of available parking on any day that you go back there.
Well, I have the same concern that Mary has in terms of parking. Now, on the lot itself, the parking spaces are all taken up by the am I correct in that?
Correct.
All right, nothing prevents, if there's offices on the first floor, there's nothing that prevents clients, customer, whoever might be coming to those offices to drive in the driveway, and if there's a empty parking place, to park where the residents are supposed to park.
I suppose they could. I think that the landlord makes a sort of promise to his tenants that those are dedicated to them. You could cure that with signage if you were concerned about issues arising out of it. But I suppose if someone was just going to run in and out, that they could use those
Well,
spaces.
You have no guarantee that somebody doesn't come there for a couple of hours and parks in one of the residents' parking spaces.
Right. They're right outside the office space. I would suggest that the folks that are operating those businesses would probably tell their customers that they couldn't park there. And again, right directly adjacent to it, there's parking that right, that you could come right around the fence and down the driveway for. So it's not inconvenient to use those parking spaces and still get to these businesses. So I don't think it's gonna be a problem that you'd have to be fighting off people that wanted to get in there because they're concerned about a long walk or anything like that.
I'm gonna make a couple of comments, and it's more of an inquiry versus anything. I'm looking at approximately 2,600 square feet of office space here, correct?
Correct. Well, that includes the utility areas too, so.
So net leasable space, what are we looking at? Do we know? Have you got a net leased number?
I do not.
I mean, are we talking about 1,500 total square feet of leasable space?
No, I mean, there's only 1,200 in the basement. So it would be less than 1,200, not significantly less, it's just these utility areas that would be taken out.
Covers up. And there's none of this basement area has any storage for any of the tenants in the building?
No, it's
Currently?
presently vacant. I think there's some photographs in there that just show it's just an empty basement. There are lolly columns, two rows of lolly columns that run down the center of the building. I mean, it's not a very large space.
Mr. Chairman, it's approximately 200 square feet that cannot be used,
I guess it's to
With the
about
hallway.
1,000 square feet.
Okay.
minus the
The
bathroom.
reason I asked you that question, and it's a pretty simplified question, because I have the simplified answer. I'm familiar with the downtown office space requirements, and I'm familiar with the employees' aspects of how many square feet of employees you have in space. You know, there's a couple of empty spaces down there right now. The last 2 or 3 days, there's been companies coming in to look at, and they're looking at 1,800 square feet, and they have 15 employees. So the net leasable square foot was my concern. Because when you start dealing with 1,800 square feet, you need 15 parking spaces or 10 minimum. So that's why I addressed that with you, because it makes a big difference to me whether or not you've got 2 offices with 500 square feet each, and maybe there's only 4 cars that are impacting a public parking lot versus 15, 16, or 17, because there's still vacancy in those buildings over there. And as soon as those are filled, there's not gonna be any parking in that lot at all available. There's currently not a lot of space available, you know, on the other 2 lots currently as it speaks. So that's why I was trying to get to the net leasable area of office space
I
itself.
think that your feeling on 2 of about 500 square feet is what you'd be looking at.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
No.
No. Questions? Okay, before we close the hearing and take it under advisement, you have the last word.
Again, I would suggest that what my client has done in that neighborhood is really a credit to the neighborhood. I think he's shown that he's, in the neighborhood, he's a good citizen. I don't think he has any intention of doing anything that would be harmful or detrimental, to the investment that he has made. Again, he's a businessman and he's trying to maximize. He's trying to maximize the use of the business of the building. I would suggest again that the uses that are proposed are harmonious with each other and harmonious with the other uses generally in the area. These are uses that are permitted in that zoning district. There really aren't any parking requirements related to that type of a use in that zoning district. I would suggest that he's made out the requirements that are in the bylaw and in the statute for the grant of a special permit, and I would ask that you act favorably on the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard.
Thank you.
Close the hearing and take it under advisement.
You want to keep one in the file?
I'd like to have one for the file.
Great, thank you.
Can we keep these in the file?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, that being after 7:10, we'll go to the next application. This is UK Investments. We got a sheet on them here, I believe, somewhere. Yep. Here we go. Put that on that one. On the application of UK Investments, 179 Blackstone Street, Mendon, for the special permit relief under the Milford zoning bylaw in relation to the premises located 49 Cena Street, Milford, Mass., formerly used and known as the Knight of Columbus Hall. The special permit relief is sought pursuant to 3.1.4 and/or 3.1.5 of the zoning bylaw in order to reestablish the use of the premises for the function hall purposes. I need the town planner letter. Okay, on the application, explain the reasons you assert the special permit sought is in harmony with the general purpose and the intent of the zoning bylaw. We've got a three-digit outline, A, B, and C, in which I will read into the minutes. The building and land have been used as a function hall for over 60 years. The neighborhood, while zoned residential, does have other non-residential uses in the immediate area of this site, parks and recreations. The Milford zoning bylaw carefully creates exemptions of the pre-existing non-conforming uses, recognizing the unique aspects of some of the town's historic building. In an effort to honor the tradition and the history of the building, the new owner will spend considerable time, effort, and money to make further improvements to the building. The prior owner made a significant improvements to the outside of the building to make it a more attractive structure. The new owner intends to make the changes to the inside of the building by way of adding modern kitchen facilities with new equipment. The building fronts on Route 85, and the primary access to and the egress from the building is directly on Route 85. The entrance and the exits have been situated so as not to minimize intrusion into the neighborhood and at the same time provide safe access to Route 85. The building is not used on a daily basis, and events that are held at the building will be closely monitored. Traditionally, the events have specific times, and traffic flows should be such that there is not an adverse effects to Route 85. The owner intends to make improvements to the site and will improve the parking lot and add designated pedestrian walkways in front of the building. By allowing the new owner the same rights as the former owner, there will be no nuisance or other hazards affecting the safety or general welfare of the public. The use of the premises as a function hall for over 60 years never resulted in any nuisance complaints or caused any issues in the neighborhood. The new owner is the person who has an excellent sense of the site's history. And we have a town planning, we have a letter from the planning board. The planning board members reviewed the petition listed above at their regular scheduled meeting held on 1/22 and recommends the following. Favorable consideration subject to the following conditions: that the public sidewalk be installed the full length of Cedar Street frontage, and number two, that an as-built plan be submitted to the planning board for completion of site work. Please see and refer to town planning letter. Town planning letter dated January 22nd. The applicant requested a special permit to allow for the reestablishment of the function hall used previously approved on the subject property. There was no plan submitted with the current application. However, the previously approved site plan depicted the formalization of the off-street parking locations, as well as the addition of the landscaping on the property. Therefore, I recommend a favorable report to the ZBA, provided a sidewalk is installed the full length of Cedar Street, and an as-built plan shall be submitted prior to the planning board after completion of the site work. There is a site work in your package. All zoning board members, from what I understand, there's no conflicts. Therefore, I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Antonellis. Mr. Antonellis, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you. For the record, Joseph Antonellis on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is here with me tonight. It's Keith Usher. Keith grew up in Hopedale and is very familiar with the Milford community. Also here tonight is Tim Nero, who will be the manager of the facility, and Andy Noyes, who also grew up in Hopedale, who is Keith's partner on many of his business activities and will be intimately involved in the operation of the function hall. Tim grew up in Milford, has extensive experience in the entertainment industry, having worked all over the country for a major entertainment company that has facilities in many, many states. Tim's come home back to his hometown. I bring this up because what we're talking about is a function hall, and I think that's what's important to your board is not so much what the building looks like inside, but how it's run by the people who have it. As you know, I've been in front of your board on multiple occasions for this building for the prior owner, and the reason we have to come in tonight is because your board previously limited the special permit for the use of the function hall to the owner of the property, and that was Route 85 Corporation. We talked about this, Keith and I and the former owner, and felt that the best way to do this was not for Keith to buy the corporation and to try and manipulate not coming back, but rather to buy the building in his own corporation and to come forward to your board and let you know who the person that's going to be running functions down there is. So Keith is here tonight to answer any questions regarding that. We have submitted an application that basically says we're going to do what the site plan that was approved the last time the owner came in to make it a function hall was going to do, and that is we're going to install the remaining improvements to the front of the building, which require a sidewalk along the front, some landscaping islands, and also some redesignation of some parking spaces. Keith and Andy and Tim have been down there working very hard. They already own the building, so they took a little bit of chance coming in, obviously. But they own the building. They've been down working hard. They've been out involved with the neighbors. They've made contacts with the neighborhood. I don't know that there are any abutters here tonight. Yes, there are, and I'm hoping that that Keith and his partners have made a good impression on the neighborhood down there. What I hope you're going to see there is an active function hall, something that's going to be able to be used by the residents in Milford who might want to have parties, confirmation, baptism, bar mitzvahs, more religious kind of oriented parties. Also, probably some after prom parties, and Keith has some ideas of some specialty nights where you might have a theme night, like for instance, a year from now tonight, maybe people will be there at a special Valentine's night, that kind of thing. The building is not enormous, as you know. I think most of you have been in it at one time or other in your lives, and you know that the functions that will be in there are not going to be huge functions. We're not talking about major weddings. We're not talking about functions the size of those that they have at the Portuguese Club, which is a facility that can handle that both with parking and the size of the building. This is going to be more of an intimate atmosphere with functions that'll be highly controlled by the owners. Keith and Andy and Tim all have significant experience in the entertainment industry with restaurant and alcohol. We are also we are applying for a transfer of the liquor license that's there now. Obviously, that's going to be an integral part of our operation of the facility, and it's our understanding that most likely we'll have some hours of operation limitations that will be discussed with the Board of Selectmen, who are the licensing authorities. There is no real major renovations going on inside other than to modernize the kitchen. I think you know that Mr. Meehan did a lot of structural repairs when he owned it. We're going to pick up and finish from that, and basically that's it. If Keith, Andy, or Tim are here to answer any questions about specific operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony?
Yes. Well, Joe kind of answered my question about the hours. It's not going to be the type of facility that's open every day then.
No.
And the selectmen, as you said, would set the hours as far
Yes.
as
The liquor, yes.
And this company does own the building? They
Yes,
bought the building?
yes. I hope I attached a copy of the deed when I submitted it,
Yeah,
but
I
they
think
did, yes.
yeah. And, of course, the building has to be handicap accessible. It most likely is from
Yeah,
that
from-
parking lot side.
Right.
Kitchen, is it downstairs where it was? Yeah. And bathrooms, did Kevin put in new bathrooms?
There's bathrooms upstairs, and there's gonna be new bathrooms put in downstairs.
All right, so there's bathrooms for men and women upstairs?
Yes,
And of course, they gotta be handicap accessible?
yes,
And you're gonna put baths downstairs?
yes.
And you don't know the capacity? Not that we have to determine it, I was just wondering.
You have to-
You said it's not that big, and I don't know how big it is.
I don't have the capacity.
They haven't issued.
We haven't
the exact
issued
one,
it
but
because,
How many square feet is the hall itself?
The function hall itself is about 3,600 to 3,800 square feet. I think there's 250 people.
that's, say that, the old license, I think, had 250 on it.
Yeah.
And again, that will be determined after we get in with all our floor plans.
Comes out to 240. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mary?
This building, didn't the previous owner redo the outside of the building?
Yes,
totally?
he did do some outside improvements, yes.
Yeah, I think sided the whole building.
Correct. Re-roofed it, I believe, also. Yeah,
Landscaping,
right.
yeah.
Did you also,
That's when it was gonna
Did
be
you
a training facility or something.
Correct. We came in to turn it into a training facility, then I came back to turn it back into the function hall. And I promised you I wouldn't be back in, but I am. I'm sorry.
You're not allowed back.
no, did they do something with the lighting when they had it for the athletic? Because there was a concern, I believe, of some of the neighbors
Right.
of the lighting
What-
and,
The lighting was going to be a concern because of the lateness of those events that were taking place. I think that the lighting there will be dictated by the planning board when we go back in to file our final site plan review. And we have that plan ready. When Keith bought the building, he was aware of the old site plan issues, so he knew going in what he had to do.
So currently, because you're confusing me, because
Apologize.
this is your third time here on this property, but you're not really confusing me. The decisions from the previous one prior to this is what you're looking to reinstate.
Right, well, yes. The last decision is a function hall, so we turned it back into the function hall, but you limited it, the
Correct.
board limited that to that applicant, that owner.
Right.
So we're asking to, in essence, transfer the special permit to the new owner.
Correct. In general.
That's
it.
correct, right, which would be for a function hall.
Okay,
Right.
great. Any other comments? Anybody from the audience like to be heard? If not, you have the last word.
Well,
Take it
again,
under
I'd like to
advisement.
thank the board. I think, again, I don't mean to bore you on a busy night, and I'm very, very strong advocate for Keith. He's been very impressive from the beginning to end. Andy and Timmy also, and I know Tim's glad to come back to Milford and have an opportunity to make an impact on the community as a Milfordian, and I think that what you're going to see is an active facility there that has some things that really are some unique events and really, really high-class situations there.
Great.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Natalis. We'll close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. That being after 7:15, we're going to be taking the application of Jeffrey Birchler. Make sure this goes back in the file. Okay, it's after 7:15. This is on the application of Jeffrey Birchler of 85 South Avenue, Natick, Mass. For a special permit or a variance release as appropriate pursuant to section 2.2.2.3 of the zoning bylaw in relation to 137,500 square foot parcel, more or less, land locating on the southwesterly side of Birch Street, known and numbered as 35 Birch. The premises were formerly used as a Verizon facility. The petitioner proposes to establish a facility for an automotive and truck repair and rental with a dealer's license and/or truck sales. Have you got that done? There you go. Grab that. Just go to the application. I'm going to read the three questions that the applicant has been requested to be asked by the board, and then if his attorney wants to read it, or I can read it into the record, it's up to you, but I'll prefer to read it first. He's going to explain why the reasons for the special permit was sought is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. Section B, he's going to be asked to propose use of the premises will not create undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety and traffic. And C, the applicant proposes the use of the premises will not cause harm to the neighborhood or create any nuisance or hazard affecting the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. All board members are fine on this hearing. Not hearing any negatives, we'll continue on. To the members of the zoning Milford Zoning Board, the petitioner, Jerry Birchler, is a small business owner in the town of Natick who operates an automotive repair facility to the servicing of the fleet vehicles and commercial trucks. He's been successful even in this financially trying time, and now seeks to expand his business to a location in order to better serve one of his larger clients in the area. The prior use of the property was previously occupied by Verizon and other affiliates as an area of the base operations. This is where they parked all their vehicles, did minor repairs and assembly to operate their business. This was a fairly busy location as the employees would drive in and park at the beginning of shift and immediately depart the company vehicles to go off-site in locations on a daily basis. They would return at the end of the shift and return the vehicles, leaving the premises and their own vehicles at the same time. This would also occur at off hours due to weather-related emergencies. The proposed work. As you will note by the attached plan, the permit for this will not change existing footprint in the building, but only seek to enclose the existing overhang area to order provide a climate-controlled working environment for employees. He will also seek to designate the front lot area for commercial truck sales. The site otherwise remains largely as it is. May also note that on the plan with this use fits well into the zone as well as meeting all the requirements listed in the chart on the said plan. This will be of less affected on the surrounded area as a new company would have less employees coming and going in all hours, and the majority of the work will be done inside the confines of the building. Therefore, both traffic concerns and noise issues would be significantly less than prior occupants. The petitioner is in the business in the industrial and commercial truck repair and currently operates a successful garage in Natick, which serves the industrial and commercial vehicles, mostly of fleet trucks. The petitioner seeks to expand his business and sought this site to its prior use with the storage of and maintenance of vehicles by a prior tenant. This would be in accordance with Article 2, Section 2 of the Milford zoning bylaws, as it is permitted in an authorized use. The petitioner is seeking to construct a wall around the existing open-air roof as to provide a weatherproofing for the environment for his business. This will also add the benefit in closing the building, which would lessen any effects to the neighborhood. In addition, the petitioner will be seeking to sell Class 1 and used motor vehicles at this location. This will largely be an adjunct to the business and be catering to the industrial and the commercial truck buyers and not the average consumer. This is aligned with the intent of the zoning bylaw as this area is specifically designed for this type of business. The petitioner's business will be carrying some effects on traffic, would have a small impact on the traffic as the nature of the business is based within the area and not a central location for service industry. The prior tenant would have dozens of trucks in and out on a daily basis. The design of this business is that the trucks are brought in when they are required to be repaired and leave upon completion of sale. The nature of that is relatively slow and in no way creating a negative impact on the traffic. As stated above, the exclosure of the building will only reduce the effect on the neighborhood as well as the reduction of traffic from the prior occupant. The building will become a workshop that is largely enclosed rather than a base operation for a major utility company which operated at all hours of the day. With that, I'll have to go to the town planning letter. This was dated February 5th. To the Zoning Board of Appeals by the Planning Board. Petition for a special permit dated January 22nd. The Planning Board reviewed the petition listed above at the regular scheduled meeting of February 5th and recommends the following. Favorable recommendation, see town planning letter. The applicant requests a special permit to allow for an automotive and truck repair operation for the principal use on the subject property. The service and repair operation will be conducted primarily on fleet vehicles. In addition, a truck rental and new truck sales operation will be included as an accessory use. There are no new buildings or additions proposed, although the applicant will be enclosed in the current open area of 10,552 square feet roofed area to the rear of the building to create 8 service bays. There are no physical changes to the existing site, and the front parking area of 31 parking spaces along Birch Street will be used for the vehicle displays only. All applicable zoning requirements appear to be met, including the provisions for more adequate off-street parking. Therefore, I recommend a favorable report be forwarded to the ZBA. An amended site plan approval will also be required from the Planning Board after the grant of a ZBA special permit. With that, I will turn the floor over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all for hearing this tonight. Essentially, what
Can you give us your name, sir?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Andrew Rubenstein, an attorney in Framingham, Massachusetts.
Great, thank you.
What my client seeks to do is to essentially enclose this area of the building. This roof already does exist. What we would be doing is just inserting walls on those 3 sides, and along with service bay doors, as to create an enclosed climate-controlled work environment for the repair of fleet vehicles. Also, what he will be doing is essentially using this area out here as display and a display area for selling of new and used fleet vehicles, and also leasing of the same. I believe everything else was well stated in that, but basically the prior use was this was used by Verizon as a base of operations, so it was a significantly busy area in terms of in and out on a daily basis. This would be significantly reduced in that, as the nature of the business and truck repair is obviously slower than the use of a very busy utility company. With that, my client and the site engineer is here for any questions.
Okay, I did pull a letter out of the file that I'd like to read into the record prior to taking any more questions. This was addressed to the Milford Zoning Board of Appeals dated February 14th. It's from TSS Realty, Inc. of 30 Birch Street. Owners are Richard Weidman and Lawrence Lee. The letter's indicating concerns regarding a request by Jeffrey Birchler for a special permit and/or variance application is appropriate pursuant to 2.2 and 2.3 of the Milford zoning bylaws regarding property located at 35 Birch Street. We do not want any water runoff that would impact the status of Stallbrook, which is a brook classified currently as an intermittent stream, or otherwise increase groundwater runoff to our property. A Phase 1 environmental assessment per Mass General Laws, Chapter 21E, was performed by Beals and Thompson in 1998 and indicated that the groundwater from the 9X service garage flowed towards our property. We do not want any releases of petroleum products or any other hazardous materials that would impact our current status per the Mass General Laws, Chapter 21E, since there were previously documented petroleum releases from the 9X service garage prior. This was also determined by a Phase 1 environmental site assessment by Beals and Thomas mentioned above. So that is read into the record. With that, anybody from the audience care to be heard? Bobby, do you have a site plan to review? Or is that what's...
That is pretty much, yeah, this is that up there.
Can I have a copy of
If I could, if I might, Robert Fox and Gary Aaron Halnon, if I could address that last letter that you read. Obviously, the town engineer and the town planner looked at this particular proposal, and they noticed that within the roadway there was a puddling that occurred in this area. Part of this plan is the applicant has to construct a catch basin and pipe it into an existing structure here to eliminate some puddling within Birch Street. There is a, obviously there's a particle separator that's part of the drainage system. So there have been some improvements made in the past to address some of these concerns with possible release of contaminants and pollutants. And obviously, I mean, you have that in any site. And once again, we're going to have to go through site plan review. And I would probably assume that even, because we're not showing here, because we're not dealing with site plans, but once this area here is enclosed where most of the trucks will be when they're being worked on, well, we're usually required to put a floor drain with a holding tank that would be self-contained and pumped out. So anything coming off of these trucks, anything during the work repair of these trucks, would be contained within this building, and and then collected in a tank and pumped out on a regular basis. And most of these vehicles that are going to be here in the front are going to be new vehicles that you're not going to expect that there's going to be any kind of you're not going to put a vehicle out there for sale and have it be dripping oil or antifreeze or anything on the pavement. So I believe that any concerns regarding environmental issues, stormwater management, or those will all be addressed in the site plan process by the town engineer and the final site plan review process.
Okay, great. Tony?
Yeah, Bob, did they ever have problems there with the site?
Well, not that I know of, but I'm just saying. this
Yeah, I know,
person
I heard that,
He's
but-
concerned about things.
Well, I mean,
And-
those people are concerned, but really nothing's changing.
But yeah, nothing's changing, and I don't believe, and there are no records of any kind of a major
I
spill.
don't
or
ever
concern.
remember, yeah.
Right.
And my client is experienced in running an operation like this. He does so out of Natick, and has done very successfully and has worked with the town effectively. So he is prepared and has vendors.
But you're addressing the drainage issues currently that need to be corrected during the
Correct.
planning
Issues that were
board
brought up
process.
during the initial review by the planning board and meeting with them, and these are things that we included in this plan and will continue to include in our site plan review process.
You answered one of my questions about the floor drains in that enclosed area, and that'll be in a holding tank and be
Yes.
pumped out periodically?
Periodically, yeah. They're alarmed, and when they get
Yeah.
full, you call and you pump them out.
I'm not absolutely sure, but I think the law is you have to have one drain per bay, or if the bay is nose in, you get
Right,
one in
exactly.
between.
You
Yeah,
have one in between, sure,
yeah.
something like that.
So it isn't like you're gonna put one drain to catch everything. There's gonna be more than
No,
one.
that's a significant, that's a considerable size area, so
Yeah.
it'll be however, whatever the requirements
Okay.
are for engineering wise.
There's not gonna be any outside repairs,
No, no.
right? Any outside storage? And
Of-
what I'm
of-
talking
of
about
those,
storage is junk, car, truck parts. Sometimes these types of companies, I would imagine, buy vehicles that are donor cars
Yeah.
that they take parts off of. And I'm not saying that I'm totally against it, I was just wondering if there was going to be.
Well,
No, then we can't be storing that.
yeah, well, I mean, Lori ride around and write you up, you know.
No,
Right?
that's
She'll
not
get you.
gonna
And,
happen.
yeah, and if you know the site at all, there's a chain link fence here and here, so this entire back area is
Yeah.
can be totally closed off and isolated from the rest of the site. So, I mean, it could be, I mean, if it was an issue of appearance, this fence could be
Yeah.
screened.
Well,
or
I mean,
whatever,
it's
but
kind of remote too, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
really in the eye of the public all the
I mean,
time.
unless you're up on the fire department lot, you can't really see.
Is your client, Attorney Rubenstein, do they own it, or are they gonna lease the building?
They're going to be owning the building.
Gonna be
They're
owning the
in the
building.
process of a purchase and sale agreement.
And you're gonna sell retail, or you're just selling wholesale like the fleets and repair? I'm just wondering if an individual can go there and just buy one truck.
I don't believe an objection would be made but it's not the typical, you're not going to buy a car or a
It's not a-
typical pickup
it's not a
truck.
car lot.
It very much is, his clientele is RCN, is Comcast, is the significant bucket truck, type of thing that you've seen all too often, the past week or so.
On the new trucks, are you gonna carry a special brand?
We're not picking any one right now.
Yeah.
But if they are fleet trucks, they
Yeah.
could be a tractor trailer type,
I see, yeah.
like a bucket truck. We do some work for a lot of utility companies,
Mhm.
so bucket trucks,
So you work on hydraulics and stuff on those too?
yes, we do.
The front area that's gonna be designated for display of the new vehicles, that's all gonna be paved, I would assume.
It's paved
Yeah, I
now.
was gonna say,
Paved
I believe
now?
it's- yeah.
It's paved now, so it's an actual parking area it wasn't previously employee parking. It will just now be designated as display area because the parking spaces are not necessary for this type of business, the amount of spaces.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
No, I'm all set for now.
No, sir. I got a couple of questions. Are you gonna be performing any type of painting or spray booths in the building at all?
There's a possibility down the road we'll pull a permit for that.
Okay, because that definitely will have to be a requirement. And what about wash bay on the vehicles? Are you planning on a wash bay?
The floor drains, I think, fell into that category.
Does that cover it?
Yes,
They call it a tight tank, it
Tight
does get
tank.
Yeah.
pumped out.
yeah.
Okay.
That would be inside also.
Okay, does that have to go by the fire chief, do you know?
Yes. They have to approve the paint.
It'll approve
Right,
that.
right.
Well,
Yeah.
the paint part of it would have to,
Yeah.
and then plus the storage of vehicles, it's gonna be vehicles obviously in that area, and they're gonna have fuel in the tanks and they're working on them, so the fire chief will have his final sign off on that.
The front of the building right now, the entrance, what's I see on the plan, is that planned for new shrubbery and new buffers, or is that existing currently?
That's existing
That's
right now.
That's existing right now. So,
There may be additional required once we get into the site plan process with the planning board, although I don't think they're really looking at it. I mean, there's a sufficient number of trees that are there now, they meet the requirement for the number of trees you need along the frontage. But, you know, here again, that's,
I'd like to just make sure that the facility it becomes a little bit more attractive than what it was from the past. That's my point. It's just a good business practice, okay?
yeah, I mean, here again, I would, like I said, knowing that we're going to be going through a site plan process, that probably just a letter to the town planner, so that, or the town engineer, asking them to consider that in their review of a site plan would probably be adequate enough.
And how many repair vehicles how many vehicles you looking for sales? There's not, I don't see a number
I think we have 8 to 10 on as far as.
on the
No,
application.
he's talking
Is there eight
about
to 10?
location here. How many,
For sale.
How many for sale?
Well, you're applying for a Class 1 license, right?
Right.
So you have to specify an amount on that.
I think there is in there. It's less than 20.
Yeah.
Because the truck spots are a bigger spot than a car spot. So we designated the front portion in between the entrance and the exits for that area as sales.
I don't see it. Yeah, but that's not vehicles for repair.
No, that's for displays, talking about.
And how many vehicles-
So you're looking for 31 to display
This display is,
for sale?
would be for sale. The repair ones would be in the back portion of the lot.
Yeah, we're talking 8 bays in here.
Okay. And then the front will be utilized for what it's currently utilized, or what it was past utilized as, like office space? Break rooms? My biggest concern is gonna be the automotive parts. There'll be, we've gotta come up with the mechanism, whether it be dumpsters, but those automotive parts just can't be laying in the yard. So we'll have a condition in there that no parts are gonna be displayed, or no trash is gonna be displayed within the yard.
And no outside storage.
No outside storage. So I just want you to
If
make
that's
a note of
fine with
that.
them, I mean, I don't know. You know, I don't know if their operation depends on outside storage.
Well, I mean, it's junk, so.
Yeah, no junk.
We're not gonna be, the facility big enough to be able to handle that with a storage facility or that, or some form of dumpster for the parts. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I have a couple more questions. How many employees do you have, or will you have there?
We probably have in the vicinity of 15 to 18.
15, 18? Yeah. And one other thing, you know, we've always run into problems with unregistered vehicles. Obviously, the new vehicles are unregistered. I have no problem with that. But if you have, let's say 31, for instance, say you're granted the license for 31 on car, for display, those will be unregistered. You also, you can't have another 30 vehicles, you know, that are unregistered on the property.
The repair ones.
But if you are gonna do that, then make sure you make allowances on your request for the license to have unregistered vehicles on the property, which would work in conjunction with the Class 1 license. Because we've had a lot of guys that they have a small place, they sell 10 cars, but then they got 6 that they're working on without plates, and then the zoning officer comes over and says you can't have them. Okay?
Absolutely, appreciate that.
Yeah, you can have as many unregistered vehicles inside as you want. It just can't be outside and display.
As we stated, this is largely fleet vehicles, so these are registered vehicles that
Are
are,
they all registered when they come in, though? You know, for repairs and stuff?
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, they're generally run by large corporations, and they, you know, they're in compliance. We're not,
Are you gonna have dealer plates?
As of right now, we don't have them.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. That comes with the sales.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
I just have one last question, which Anthony actually reminded me of that. When a fleet truck does come in, does it usually come in on a flatbed because it may be broken down?
Possibility, yes.
Does it come in if it's in an accident or if there's front end damage?
Absolutely.
So then that gets dumped in the garage, or does that get dumped in the yard?
Gets put in the yard, and then it gets pushed into the garage for repair.
Okay. All right. Okay. If there's no other questions, anybody in the audience, then you have the last word before I close it and take it under advisement.
Just want to thank you, thank the board and you for hearing us tonight, and look forward to your response.
Great, okay.
Thank you.
All right, to close the hearing, take it under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we got the sheet, or does Kevin have it again? Perfect, thank you. Okay. Put your writing hand in there, sunshine. All right, on the first applicant, Russet Rentals. What's the pleasure of the board?
There is no parking required in that zoning district. That seems to be the only thing that some of the members are questioning. I've dealt with Mr. Ruggiero for years and never had a problem. He's always complied and done what's best for him and for the community. So I think whatever he does there, he's gonna make himself proud and the town of Milford proud of it.
Okay. Any other comments?
No,
I just made a note here. We're gonna limit this, of course, this particular use. It's for strictly business and professional office.
Right.
Strictly.
Yes.
We have a resident or butters that are requesting them not to park on the street. It's a public street. I don't know if we can even make that decision, and I'm not gonna go down that road. So I'm gonna eliminate that particular situation, because that's something that the board cannot control. But clearly, the board is preventing any type of retail trade out of there, whether it be hairdressers, food use, but there'll be no retail trade in the decision whatsoever. As far as any, whether it be a hairdresser, whether it be a food, a convenience
Well,
store,
that, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you can do that.
professional office,
Well,
business.
professional business office, I mean, a hairdresser's business.
That's
You know,
correct.
they provide a service. You know, you could say no
Actually,
restaurants.
Yeah, the others will need a license. So,
Yeah, right, they'd have to come here anyway to put a beauty shop in there.
so we'll keep the decision as business/professional, and that should cover what we need to cover for this particular applicant. If that's acceptable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Do you know the drill? You have a 15-day appeal period. After that, you're
20.
good to go. Congratulations.
He
Good luck.
changed it.
You've done a great job with the building. Keep going.
Good to see you again.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, all in favor.
How's the snow up there?
Not as bad as here.
No,
No,
New Hampshire.
Okay. Have a good night. Thank you.
Take care. Good luck.
The next applicant is UK Investments. Basically, I think what we're doing at this point is we're reinstituting the past decision.
It's gonna run with the applicant.
And it, yeah, this particular approval and special permit is gonna run with the applicant. And we're gonna reinstitute the decision prior to the last change of use, which we have. If all board members are fine with that, since it was the same board at the time.
Mr. Chairman?
Would you like me to go over them?
No, but I just want to make a comment. I don't know how to put it. We've got to regulate the use. Now, the use is a function hall.
Correct.
And if you remember, there was quite a controversy over what a function hall was with a particular bar in town.
Well, this particular issue and this decision is the exact same decision as it was when it was.
I understand that.
Zealous.
Yeah, I understand that. And the only thing was that at that other one, the other case I'm talking about, the town assumed that a function hall meant a birthday party, an anniversary party, a graduation party, whatever. But then all of a sudden, they were just putting the overflow crowd in there. Not that this is the same situation, but functions, there's a lot of different things you can call a function, but I don't know if there's anything we can do about it.
They've
but
corrected
it's not
that.
an open- yeah.
They've corrected that, and they've put that on the license.
Okay, all right, I just, want to consider it, because might end up with a strip joint. Only on every
We
third
need one.
Wednesday.
No liquor license. Okay, so, would anybody, would you like me to go over the decision? Because this is basically what we're reinstituting the decision prior to the last application.
I'm fine with it.
We're all been a part of that
Yeah,
before.
I read it, I'm fine.
The
with
only
it.
thing that I think is different on that is that they are gonna put the sidewalk in.
That's correct, we're adding
Well, it was,
that.
yeah, they didn't finish that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we'll reinstitute the prior decision to that, which I have, and then we are gonna have them, they've gotta go back to the planning board, but we'll put in that the sidewalks have to extend
Yeah.
the full length of the front of Cedar.
They'll
front
They'll
of-
do the lighting, everything,
right. But the sidewalk itself will run the full length of
Cedar Street.
Cedar Street, which is at the front of the building. With that, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Anthony to approve,
I'll
second by
second.
Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Did I sign that? I didn't sign this. Did I sign this? Yes, actually, it's working out real well. It really is. That goes there. Okay. And on the last one, which is Jeffrey Birchler. Looks like we're gonna be authorizing 31 cars for sale / repair in total.
Yeah, so that'll be the total number of unregistered on the entire lot.
Right. So it would be 31 unregistered vehicles shall be allowed on the premises for sale / repair. There will be no outside storage of any parts
No outside repairs either.
or junk.
And then no outside repairs.
And there will also be no outside repair allowed on the premises.
We don't have to mention anything about spray painting booth, that would be something that.
Right, that has to go through the
They would have to go
fire-
through the fire department, okay.
um,
Same thing with the,
The license will run
Those.
with the applicant, so if
Yeah.
the building is sold, they would have to come back to reapply. G&H is taking care of the drainage. I'd like to put a condition in there concerning the condition of the fence on the property. That the fence that currently surrounds the property is kept in good appearance and repair. And of course, it's, no sales of automobiles. No sales of automobiles.
And we don't care about the
Fleet,
hours, do we?
well, the hours of operation, we haven't been given hours of operation, so when he goes for his,
Yeah,
vacation,
yeah, they'll do that when he gets a
Yeah.
class one anyway.
no,
Exactly.
no sales of automobiles.
Oh, yeah, you gonna do that?
What?
No sales of automobiles?
Cars.
Why not?
Just
got a friend that wants to sell a car.
It's truck, he's-
I know it, you know.
right, let's control this, okay?
Okay.
You got a
I
car
don't think
you
he's,
wanna
I don't think
sell?
he wants to get into the, he can always come back to add the cars if he needs to.
What about if it's an avalanche? Is that a car or a truck?
All right, so, anything else on the, list?
I'm all set.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion. Joe? You want to make a motion?
Motion to
Motion.
approve?
Motion by Joe, seconded by,
I'll second.
by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Next meeting?
Our next meeting is scheduled for, what is the date?
Yeah, March 14th.
March 14th, so the next,
Okay.
okay, great, thank you. With that, we conclude the meeting, and have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah, thank